guys, it's nice to be back, at least before the semester ends. Endings are of two phases. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad. But one truth between them prevails. Whether you like it or not, there will be endings. Practically, this topic is what we will be dealing here in your last philosophy module. The human beings as oriented towards impending death. To begin with, I will be presenting to you 5 questions related to our topic in this video lesson. I'd like you to get a piece of paper to write onto. Each questions will be flashed on the screen, and write only the letter of your choice. You will be given 5 seconds to answer each questions. Are you ready? Okay, let's begin. Here we go. I would like you to complete the statement. A life review is a process of blank. Letter A, reminiscence in order to determine the significance of one's life. B, examining one's strategic moves in a popular board game. C, critiquing a pictorial magazine. D, comparison taste, testing breakfast cereals. The correct answer is A, reminiscing in order to determine the significance of one's life. Question number 2. The following are some existential realities of death according to Heidegger, except A, death is certain, it is our utmost possibility. Letter B, death is definite. Letter C, death is one's property. And letter D, death is non-relational. The correct answer is B, death is definite. For questions number 3 and 4, I will be reading this quote from Epicurus. And this will be the basis for your answers to questions number 3 and 4 respectively. Death, therefore, the most awful of evils, is nothing to us, seeing that when we are, death is not come. And when death is come, we are not. It is nothing then either to the living or to the dead. For with the living it is not, and the dead exist no longer. For question number 3, in the quote, Epicurus is trying to show that letter A, death should not be feared. Letter B, we should be able to enjoy life even though death comes at an end. Letter C, what most people consider a great evil is really nothing. And letter D, all of the given. And the correct answer is letter D, all of the given. Next, question number 4. The author of the quote is obviously, letter A, does not believe in any kind of immortality, either heaven or hell. Letter B, is worried about whether he will go to heaven. Letter C, is not Thomas Aquinas. And letter D, is Epicurus. The correct answer is letter B, is worried about whether he will go to heaven. The 5th question and the last question is, what was the influential book that Martin Heidegger made that signifies life and death? Letter A, life and being. Letter B, being and time. Letter C, a treatise of human nature. And letter D, either or. And the correct answer is letter B, being and time. Okay, I hope you were able to answer all the questions correctly, but if not, well, it's just alright. And like we always do during the video lessons I presented to you last quarter, we will be guided by the MELC of this course, specifically those which pertains to this topic, to this module. Number 1 is enumerate the objectives you really want to achieve and to define the projects you really want to do in your life. And number 2, reflect on the meaning of your own life. Our life is full of questions, and most of our questions remain unanswered. We ask the question about our existence, where we came from, saan tayo galing, and where we will be when we die. These important questions bother us so much that in some way or another, we try to think of it. We try to think of them as if they're just something unrelated, something unnecessary, something unimportant, and something which does not make any sense at all. In short, iniiwasan nga natin yung topic na to. So why would we bother thinking about these questions? Yet the problem here is that we cannot avoid asking questions. Bakit? Kasi nga tao tayo. At isang katangian ng tao ang pagtatanong dahil marami tayong gustong malaman at maintindihan. In fact, marami pa nga tayong hindi lubos na maunawaan kahit sa panahon ngayon. We may know ourselves as how we function in this world, but ultimately, we will never understand our whole self as we are. A lot of people are scared about death. In fact, by just the thought of it, most people often do a knock on wood, kumakatok sila dun, kapag ginag-uusapan, just to get rid of the idea, or that it may not happen in that very moment. But what is actually death? Generally, death simply means the cessation of life. In fact, dinadagdagan pa nga nila yung meaning nito. For example, dagdagan nila absence of the natural respiratory functions, and attempts at resuscitation would not be successful in restoring those functions. In fact, ito yung legal and medical definition ng death o ng kamatayan. Pero ang tanong natin dito ay ganito: bakit natin kinakatakutan ang kamatayan? Ano ang mayroon sa kamatayan para katakutan natin ito? Death is a phenomenon that, whether we like it or not, will confront us all. Sciences, religion, philosophy try to provide us with answers to this perennial question about this phenomenon. Yet, no absolute answers are actually given. Kaya nga hanggang ngayon sa topic natin na ito, tinatanong pa rin natin, di ba? In the book of Erwin W. Lutzer, entitled 1 Minute After You Die, the author presented various perspectives about the reality of death. For example, there are claims of those people who have somehow naka-experience silang tinatawag na near-death experiences, that they saw a certain kind of light and they followed it. And the next thing they knew was they're back to life. There are, however, some skeptics. Ito yung mga medyo nagdududa, na kung totoo ba to o hindi. Usually, nandun sila sa field ng psychology. Para sa karamihan sa mga psychologists, these so-called near-death experiences are actually mental processes of somehow memories of the person or a wishful thought about living. But as philosophers, we are open to possibilities, even if the event presents something impossible, such as, for example, yung belief natin sa life after death. Otherwise, our earthly life will be reduced to something mechanical, which is tantamount to saying being meaningless. No? Further, that presents to us some sort of uncertainties, which makes people to fear death. Because of the questions such as, what lies beyond death? So ano ba talaga ang meron pagkatapos nating mamatay? In fact, Heidegger believes that our fear of death is actually fear about nothingness. Okay, that lies beyond death. Since literally, wala pa namang namatay na muling nabuhay at vividly dinescribe niya kung ano ang meron doon sa kabilang buhay. No? For Christians and other Abrahamic religions, the fear of banishment in hell as one's punishment for sins is also a reason why people fear death. But as philosophers, we may ask, what really is death as it is in itself? And what is in death what that we really fear? To provide us somehow answers to these questions, we will try to dig into the mind of Martin Heidegger. So he was the German philosopher who is famous for his philosophy about death in his book known as Being and Time. So Heidegger pointed out the 5 existential reality of death, which are all connected and actually intertwined. No? Number 1, death is certain, is our utmost possibility. Sabi nga ni Heidegger, no? As soon as a man comes to life, he is at once old enough to die. These words of Heidegger give us one of the appalling truths about the reality of death. Death is certain. In short, sigurado. In fact, it is much more certain than life. Our being thrown into this world, as Heidegger puts it in his own language, was our very experience of being here, of being there, or in ordinary words, our very experience of existence. Our existence in this world gives us many uncertainties. In fact, di ba nga sinasabi natin, ano ang mangyayari sa akin sa kinabukasan? Uncertain. Pero sabi ni Heidegger, there is one most certain of all these possibilities, that we will all die. Okay? Second, death is indefinite. It is somehow ironic, no? Sabi niya, while death is the most certain of all, it is however indefinite. Okay, anong ibig niya sabihin dito? Yes, we will all die, but when and how, hindi natin alam. Indefinite. Okay? It is actually, ang sabi niya, the not yet, but at the same time, the already is at hand. In fact, dinagdag pa niya, no? We are being towards death. We are being towards death. Anong ibig sabihin? Pinanganak tayo, and eventually, mamamatay tayo. Ganun lang siya. So, we were born, and eventually, we will die. Third, death is one's property. As clearly explained in your module, the death of the person belongs to him. Nobody can experience his death except himself. No? So, ibig sabihin, there can be no proxies or substitute for a person in experiencing death. Hindi naman po pwede nating sabihin na, uy, pa-experience naman ng kamatayan mo. Hindi po pwede yun. Kasi kapag namatay ka, ikaw ang namatay at hindi siya. Kapag namatay siya, hindi ikaw ang namatay, kundi siya rin. Ganon lang siya. So, anong ibig sabihin? In short, my death is my own, but not yours. And your death is yours, but not mine. Okay. So, pang-apat. Ano yung pang-apat? Sabi niya, death is non-relational. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Corollary to death as one's own property, death is also non-relational. When we die alone. Walang relationship. Every relationship is cut when we die. We have no choice but to face it on our own. Death also removes all relationships to others. In contemplating death, we realize our own individuality and independence from the world. And number 5, death is not to be outstripped. Anong ibig sabihin niya? Kung mapapansin nyo, yung 5 yon intertwined siya, no? Kaya nilagay sa description, they are interconnected and intertwined. Anong ibig sabihin ng not to be outstripped? Finally, since death is personal and non-relational, therefore it cannot be taken away from the person. Hindi mo pwedeng alisin. Kung mamamatay na yung taong yun at mamamatay na siya talaga, hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin sa kanya yung kamatayan. Ayun ang ibig sabihin ng it cannot be outstripped. It is always, I will die because my death is my own and no one can take that death away from me. Ganun lang siya kasimple. No one can take away that utmost possibility from me. Now here's the question. If I was born just to die in the end, then the question is, what is the meaning of my existence? No? Kung nabuhay ka lang, ipinanganak ka para mamatay lang, so ano ang sense ng buhay mo? Bakit ka pa pinanganak, mamamatay ka lang din naman pala sa huli? Both the existentialist Heidegger and Soren Kierkegaard would say that, we will only realize the meaning of our life through the reality of death. No? Parang ano lang siya, yung sa coin, you have the head and the tail. No? Ganun lang siya. These two comprises the faces of a coin. This is somehow similar to the saying na you will just see the value of the person pag wala na siya. The absence of the person makes the heart go ponder. Parang ganun lang, no? Okay, now this brings us to the challenge of living an authentic life. Since my death is always my own, then it follows that my life is also my own. Now, this is where Heidegger's notion of care, yung kalinga o pagkalinga sa sarili, comes in. And similarly, Kierkegaard's notion of living an authentic life, which can be reduced simply to being responsible to one's own existence. Therefore, it is my responsibility to take care of my life, not just simply blindly following the anonymous day. Ano ba kaya nga anonymous, hindi mo kilala, pero sinusunod mo sila. But to be critical and vigilant even to the point of going against them when necessary. Okay, let me give you an example. If your barkada, yung barkada, they represent what we call anonymous day, are inviting you to smoke cigar and drink alcohol, anong gagawin mo? Susunod ka lang ba talaga? Susunod ka na ba agad-agad? So if you follow them, according to Kierkegaard, you are not being authentic to yourself. Bakit? Because you simply follow kung ano yung gusto nila because you wanted to become in. No? Gusto mong maging in. Kung sumunod ka sa kanila, it means that you are not being authentic to yourself. Why? Because you are just merely following the expectations of the anonymous day, which is your barkada. Similarly, Heidegger will say that you are not really taking care of your life. Why? Since you only become one like the many and simply adhere to the expectations of your barkadas. Ganon siya. No? Let's just put it in this way. Socrates once said that the unexamined life is not worth living, which means that if you will just live without reflecting about what you are doing in your life, then your life becomes meaningless. When you die, your death becomes meaningless as well. Now, you can now see the connection between the two. To live a meaningful life is to die a meaningful death. Again, to live a meaningful life is to die a meaningful death. Now, for your reflection, here's what you will do. With a minimum of 100 words, answer the following questions. Write your answer on a clean piece of paper to be submitted as part of your output in Module 4. Okay? So, question number 1. What are the 3 things that you want to achieve in your life? And I would like you to explain each. Number 2. If you are going to examine your own life at this point, no ngayon, can you say that you are living an authentic life? Yes or no, and then explain. Okay? Well, that's it. That ends up our lesson in philosophy for this semester. So I do hope that despite the so many learning challenges brought about by the modular distance learning, you still were able to learn something from the course. Let me end with a quote from St. John Paul II. He said, "Have no fear of moving into the unknown. Simply step out fearlessly, knowing that I am with you. Therefore, no harm can befall you. All is very, very well. Do this in complete faith and confidence."